Welcome to Research and Design Build. On today's episode, we're going to cover the installation of these insulated subfloor panels. We'll go over some of the pros and cons of installing these subfloor panels and also answer the question, is this worthwhile? And is this worth the investment? Before you can start laying down the subfloor panels and really getting started, you got to make sure that everything is perfectly clean. You got to remember that once these subfloor panels are down, they're down. So anything that's left on the floor underneath is going to stay there, and any bumps or other things are going to get in your way and really prevent you from getting these nice and level. So you can start on one corner and start working your way out. Now you'll notice that I've got 1/4 inch shims that I've cut and made up, and putting those against the wall. So you want to be able to space about 1/4 inch from all of your walls to allow for a little bit of expansion and contraction of the panels, and so that if there is any expansion, that they're not hard up against the wall or some other studs, as that will cause the entire floor or subfloor to start to bow. Now I got lucky, I was able to start with a full board, but you want to make sure that when you get to the end, you're not going to be just left with a little sliver. Also, when you're making the cut, you want to make sure that you're cutting on the right edge, as you've got the tongue and groove. You got the tongue on two sides and you got a groove on two sides. So you got to make sure that you're cutting it properly, so that you continue with the same pattern that you've got going already. To make the cuts, I'm using a Festool track saw. I really enjoy this saw just due to the fact that the quality of cut it gives, the repeatability, but then also the major factor using it inside is the very limited amount of sawdust that is produced and escapes the saw. Vast majority of that ends up getting vacuumed up. Now you want to make sure that you've left enough space so you can still have that 1/4 inch gap on all sides, and use a couple pry bars up against the wall to get in there and tighten up that gap on the tongue and groove. So, and then after that, you can put your shims up against the wall so that nothing moves. I would recommend putting a lot of shims in on especially on the first row, because as you put in the other rows, you're going to be kind of hammering and pounding against it to try to get everything tight. So you do want to make sure that those aren't going to go anywhere, and that space, that 1/4 inch gap, is maintained as you progress throughout laying these subfloor panels down. For the second row, you can start right where you left off. Now, starting with the full sheet on this side, or the full panel on this side, will now stagger your joints. So you do want to try to stagger your joints and keep a fairly decent stagger, 5 inches or more between them. So again, you got the spaces against the wall and making sure those are tight, and then you can just continue laying down the next panels as you go. So you also need to make sure that when you are installing these panels that you have a sacrificial block of wood that you're hammering up against. Now this will avoid you damaging the tongue or the groove as you're hammering these into place. The other thing to keep in mind, and what you'll see in the video here, is I do have some plastic shims which I am using to shim up any low spots. This Dri-core product that I'm using does have a checkerboard pattern on the bottom. I believe this is a superior design from some of the other brands that are out there, as I believe it will allow for a little bit of air movement underneath the panels, as well as allow for water movement if I do get any water in the basement at any point. So just before I started laying down the subfloor panels, I took some initial floor temperature readings. So I took 9 temperature readings across the floor of the entire basement, and the average temperature was 15.9 degrees Celsius. Day after I got all the subfloor panels down, I went down, took the same measurements in the same spots, ambient temperature was the same, and the temperature as far as the thermostat had been set the same as well. And the average floor temperature raised to 16.5 degrees. So only a 0.6 degree temperature rise. However, the coldest parts of the basement floor had been measured at 14.5 degrees Celsius, and that had raised to 16.3. So the sort of the furthest space away from the furnace room and where there is some heat had raised by 1.8 degrees Celsius. Now, the cost to do this project was not inexpensive. Each panel was about $7 Canadian. So for the entire basement, it was around $1,300 to add this. Now, this is an ad that probably if you're looking for return on investment and to sell a property, I would not say is worth it. It is going to be buried underneath flooring, and for the average person that's walking in and spending 10 minutes at most in your house before they're looking to buy it, probably are not going to notice the fact that there's insulated subfloor underneath the carpet or other flooring that's in the basement. However, I do think that raising the temperature of the coldest part of the floor by 1.8 degrees is probably beneficial, and even right now I can feel that there is a difference there. There's also a difference from a sound perspective as well, and so I think that if you do have the money and you do have the budget to add it, it'll definitely make your basement a much more comfortable place to hang out. If you have any questions or comments about this video, or any questions related to installing insulated subfloor, please leave it in the comment sections below, and I will make sure to get back to you. Now, as always, if you've enjoyed this video or found it informative, please give it a like, and please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll have a lot more content on its way, and please check out my other videos. So here we've got the finished product. I got a little bit more to do around the tub, but I'll do that once the tub's in its final location. But overall, it's looking good, and I would highly recommend this.